Joining us for today's conversation, really diving into transformational change and taking that one step further to even unpack what does it look like to start to scale impact and embrace your true authenticity. And I'm really excited to be joined today in this conversation by Michelle Romero from Dream.org. Michelle is a friend and a fellow change agent and social justice warrior. Michelle is actually the Chief Strategy Officer at Dream.org and has really been leading some meaningful conversations around what transformative change is and how to approach that in a really authentic way. Michelle, thanks so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about just how we in the nonprofit sector can play bigger.
I love that. You and I have had some really cool conversations about this over the last few weeks. And I'm really excited today to dive a little bit deeper into the journey that you have been on at Dream.org and what that transformation has looked like to start to scale impact for the organization while maintaining authenticity, but looking at doing that in a more compelling and transformative way. So would love to dive in. We're gonna go hot topic right out the gate because I really want to hear from you, Michelle, as organizations are embarking on reevaluating their missions post-pandemic and the new normal that we're living in today and all the changes that we're all navigating in the philanthropic space, how can organizations start to identify what their unique value is and their unique opportunity to embrace impact and change while still staying really true and authentic to their core purpose?
Dream.org serves low income communities and communities of color, including justice impacted folks, right? Folks who've been affected by the system of mass incarceration. And so when you're dealing with vulnerable communities, oftentimes you do feel the burden of trying to serve all of their needs. And so I love the way that you framed that. Just how do you really focus on what it is that you really can offer and the thing that you do best? And I think right now, if the pandemic has taught us anything, it's that there are some things that are just way out of our control. And I think sometimes historically in the social justice space in particular, we have this mentality that if we could just organize enough people that we can make change, that we're going to get everyone together and we're going to make change, whether that's stopping something really bad or creating something good. And I think the reality is that technology and the pace of technological innovation is just way faster than anything we can do in the nonprofit space. The worsening sort of effects of the climate crisis and extreme weather and the sort of scale of the impact that has on everything from our food supply chains to travel, just everything about our daily lives, it's unrealistic at this point, right? To think that model is enough to tackle these major systems. And so I think that post pandemic, as people are thinking about what they really can do, it's stay responsive, right?
Hmm.
But be agile. This digital era has information and change coming at us and at our communities all of the time. And
Yeah.
so being able to be more flexible, more nimble, and evolve. I think
Yeah.
that too, evolve. It's really time to break out of the way things have always been and the way we wound up and really think about the future we're trying to create and who we need to be in order to do that now.
I love that. And I really appreciate you saying thinking about who we need to be now to create
Hmm.
that future, right? So for organizations thinking about who we are today and who we want to be and some of the real changes that you have to put into place to make that happen. One of the things I remember you sharing with me, Michelle, that it has stuck in full transparency, fangirl moment. I put it on a post-it and it's up on my it's up on my board and I look at it every single day. But it's this incredible motto that you shared: live free, lead free others. And I just think that it's compelling, it's inspiring, and it's true. It's real and how we need to be leading our organizations and how it applies to both personal growth but organizational impact. Will you elaborate for us a little bit on that motto, how you came to that and what you think about that?
As a social justice advocate, I knew I wanted to make a positive impact. I knew I cared about social justice. I wanted communities of color and communities that I came from to have greater access to opportunity. And it stemmed from some of my own personal experiences, right? Going through my educational career, there were times, I'll just tell you, I never graduated high school. I graduated college with honors, but I never graduated high school. And it is really was no fault of my own. I was the kid who school always came easy for, but I transferred schools the summer before my senior year. And the school district I transferred into I was predominantly serving a Mexican community, and this school just had absolutely no interest in understanding the college coursework I'd been doing as a junior in high school and all of this sort of stuff, and just insisted I be behind. Insisted I retake my junior year classes and go to Saturday school and all of these sort of things to try and graduate with my grade. And I thought it was absurd, but I didn't have the language, the tools to really advocate for myself at that
Right.
point. And I remember petitioning the school district and trying to see if I could maybe transfer to another school that would work with me here and understand that I had really actually been in college full time as a 16-year-old. And so
Right.
there's got to be something workable here. And just seeing the economic disparities between the school district that I was part of and the next school district over, having new BMWs in the student parking lot, and just like the visual representations of from one community to the next, the opportunities being fundamentally different and what you do and don't have access to. And so I knew for me that something was wrong. The system was broken. I was just a kid who wanted to go to school. What? Like, how is this not possible? And so that really put me on the path to working in systems change, to working in policy change, and to how we create the rules that will actually allow people opportunities. So very much this sort of philosophy for me of live free, lead free, and free others started for me with helping other people never be in the situation that I was in, right? Feeling
Yes.
limited, feeling
Mhm.
held back, um, just simply because the way the rules were written about what opportunities I could or couldn't have, and also probably racism in terms of how helpful they were going to be with me versus someone
Absolutely.
else. But that was really what fueled my work in the social justice space. But I have to say, after years and years of working in this space, after helping to pass policies and helping to rewrite the rules and expand opportunities, I went through a real transformation on a personal level this past year. And I realized that while I was doing all of this work externally, I still was someone who was very much living with my own limiting beliefs about the life I could create for myself,
Right.
right? And so for me, my personal mission now is really to be able to live the life that I preach, right? To live the life
Yeah.
free from the beliefs that have held me back. And in my leadership too, right? To lead more boldly, even
Yes.
without the sort of unhealed wounds of the past getting in the way of how we lead. And I really believe that's ultimately how we can make our biggest impact in terms of freeing others from limitations.
I love that. And it's a perfect segue into a couple of the programs that I want to celebrate and also learn more about. I think your story and your journey and one how you advance change and social justice and impact is incredible. But to your point, freeing others and bringing others and equipping them to also make an impact in that space is incredible. Dream.org's Justice Innovation Prize.
Yeah.
So incredible. I know it focuses on disrupting mass incarceration. I'd love to learn a little bit more about how this program really empowers innovators to make a significant impact in the social justice space and bringing others along.
Dream.org is working to end mass incarceration and build a more inclusive green economy. We really dream of a world beyond poverty, pollution, prisons, and polarization. And the Justice Innovation Prize provides a vehicle basically to call all innovators, people who have big ideas for how to disrupt mass incarceration and offer their alternatives. I think a lot of times when we talk about communities of color and low income communities, we talk about the disproportionate harm that happens, whether they're most affected by economic downturns or pollution and poverty and all these sorts of things. And that's true, but we don't talk enough about the talent and genius that exists.
Right.
And we also don't talk enough about the solutions that are going to take a big enough swing at the systemic problems that we face. And the Justice Innovation Prize was basically a $1 million prize where we put out a national call for folks to share their ideas of what they're doing to disrupt the incarceration system and create more empathy and more restoration with as people are coming out. And we are excited to be able to announce our winners soon. You should check out dream.org if you want to look at who some of the finalists are and see who
Excellent.
we ultimately award the prize to. But yeah, it's really exciting. People are just doing some really incredible work around this. And we hope to, I think, build an ecosystem of
Yeah.
justice tech innovators and people who can start to tackle this problem that we've, I think, accepted for too long as
Right.
just something that's here to stay.
Absolutely. Can you give us a little sneak peek of when those winners will be announced?
Yeah, so we are going to have our 5 finalists on the SoCap stage, at the end of October, and so they
Great.
are going to do live pitches, and we'll have our really esteemed judge panel make the final selection and award it there at the SoCap stage in
Oh
October.
my, that's super exciting. All right. We'll be keeping an eye out and eager to share those updates with our group as well.
Yeah.
I know for you that you all had to make some hard choices and changes to really get to this place of being able to impact systemic change and really making sure that your mission was transformative in its impact. And you had to sacrifice and scale away from certain localized programs, different things like that to be able to get to the type of organization you wanted to be. Will you share a little bit about that journey with us, some of those hard choices you had to make, and any recommendations you'd give to other organizations having that conversation today?
I came to dream.org to help rebuild its Green for All program. And at the time, Green for All was an initiative that was barely struggling to make ends meet and continue to do the important work that it was doing. And we turned that initiative around. I was able to increase the annual budget actually for that by 100% in the first 2 years that I took
Wow.
over. And we really set a new strategy and put it on a course to grow and scale. And so in the middle of the pandemic, we had just secured one of our largest grants ever, $10 million dollars from the Bezos Earth Fund. And we were just in this moment of really needing to scale. That
Right.
gift was like the size of our entire organization's budget at the time. So we had to level up, right? It was out of necessity that we had this opportunity. And so we took a moment to just authentically listen to, and I talk about authenticity and authentic listening, but to listen to ourselves as an organization and say, what is actually the deepest impact that we can make? Who are we in the world? What is it that
Right.
we're trying to offer? And we realized that we're a systems change organization. And we realized that for a while we were trying to be some other things, whether that's collective action or movement building. There were components of those things that showed up in different places in the organization. But at the core, an organization that dreams of a world beyond poverty and pollution and some of these like major sort of systemic issues can be nothing other than a systems change organization, right? And so
100%.
so when we finally realized that and accepted that and owned it, it fundamentally changed how we approached our programs. And so at the time you mentioned the program, we had a program, one of our tech programs was helping Black and Brown talent enter the tech sector. And so we would find them, train them. It was an 8 to 10 week training program, connect them to employers who had ready jobs. They would interview and be placed there. And it was successful by all measures, honestly.
Right.
By your traditional nonprofit standards, it was a success. The people who came into the program were exactly the people we were trying to serve. The companies that they were landing at were major companies like Target, PwC, et cetera. And they would start sometimes some of them were going from like retail jobs to entry level software engineering jobs, right? And putting them on a career track. And so there were
Yeah.
average salary increase was over 30,000 after a 10-week training program. So for the people that were in the program, it was 100% meeting all marks on the impact side. But as a systems change organization, we now needed to take a step back and say, what actually are we trying to achieve here? And what we were trying to achieve at the time, what we thought, was to diversify the tech sector. And so when you started to take a look at the size of the problem and the gap, the proportional representation gap that exists in tech, and the fact that at the time, too, we were doing these training cohorts for different types of jobs at different types of companies, probably wasn't focusing all of our efforts enough to make an impact, at least in one particular area. We realized, look, in our best year, we might have 100 people that we put on this career path, but is that going to tip? Is that going to move the needle? Is it going to
Right.
tip the scales in any way? And the answer was probably not. Probably not, especially given that there were still workplace diversity issues with retention and things that were beyond what we could do once they got in the door. And we shifted. And it was hard because at that time, like I said, the program was meeting its impact mark,
It's
right? And
successful.
so
Right.
for everyone working on that program and for folks at the organization, our board, et cetera, to have to do that education to say, yes, we are. We're killing it on the things that we're doing now.
Yeah.
But what is the future we're trying to create? And is this going to help us get there? And if not, are we willing to let it go so that we can focus our time and resources on something else? And the bet that we made, the pivot we made was actually to start working more with the clean tech and the justice tech innovators and entrepreneurs. And
Mhm.
specifically in the climate tech space, I think that the opportunity here is that when you think back to the dot com boom and everyone who made their money out of computers in the digital era, those are our billionaires today, right? Like
Right.
those are our billionaires today. So now that we're making this big transition, this big economic transition to a green, more sustainable economy, if we can actually get behind the innovators of today who are going to be those leaders of tomorrow, that has the potential actually to make more of a difference, both for closing the wealth gap
Mhm.
and the diversity in these new economic sectors than anything we could be doing trying to catch up to the old
Right.
system, right? We got to get on the cutting edge of the new system. And so it's those sorts of things I
Yeah.
think that are a risk, but are
Mhm.
required too if we really want to play bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. And applaud you for the bold leadership it takes to have those conversations and take that risk. For individuals wanting to learn a little bit more or be able to take this journey within their own organizations, I'm really excited to be able to share that you are going to be offering coaching services. Could you tell the group a little bit more about that?
Yes. I am so excited to be doing this actually. I've worked in the social impact sector for a while. I've gotten a chance to raise tens of millions of dollars for social causes, work with some of the biggest brands like Amazon and Google Nest, earth friendly products, and even celebrity influencers to raise awareness. And I've really just seen what growth and scale and getting rid of our limiting beliefs can do. And so I feel really called to help other social change makers play bigger. And through my new company, I'm offering strategy and change management consulting and fundraising coaching to help people take their big ideas and turn them into massive impact while giving you more freedom. And I think that's so important that when we're passionate about social cause work, we can often become so dedicated and give all of our life to this work. But there is a way to play bigger, to scale impact and to still maintain and actually have more freedom. And so you can learn more or book a free consult at itsmichelleromero.com.
Excellent. It's michelleromero.com. Thank you so much, Michelle. I can't wait to check it out. I'm so grateful for you taking the time today and letting us dive into transformative change and scaling and embracing authenticity. This has been an incredible conversation, and we look forward to continuing the dialogue in the weeks and months to come. Thank you so much,
Thank,
Michelle.
thank you, Whitney.